word is out. You're looking there at some of the faces of Time Magazine's Person of the Year. Not one person this year, but a collective, and you might recognize some of them. Alyssa Milano, the actress, the former Uber engineer Susan Fowler, Taylor Swift, actor Terry Crews, many, many others. Now, as a group called the Silence Breakers, and Time's Person of the Year. Time correspondent Haley Sweetland-Edwards is with me from New York City to talk about the selection. It's one we wait for every year. It's one that we always discuss with interest. And Haley, good to have you as part of our program. Thanks for being my guest.
Thanks so much for having me.
Collectively, who are the Silence Breakers?
The Silence Breakers are a group of extremely different women. We have women, as you mentioned, women and men who represent Hollywood, Alyssa Milano, Ashley Judd, Taylor Swift. And then on the other, we also have more ordinary women like you and me. We have lobbyists and a dishwasher and a woman who works in the agricultural fields in California picking strawberries. We have women who show up at hotels to clean your room when you're not there. All of these women came together in different ways this year to speak out, to say enough of sexual harassment, enough of sexual abuse. We also have men, as you mentioned, and we collect them all in this sort of extraordinary group of people who spoke out this year.
The Silence Breakers, those behind #MeToo. And why did Time decide that theirs was the greatest influence on 2017?
I think that we are seeing more rapid social change around this issue than we've seen in decades. And this discussion is always so interesting in the Time newsroom. We debate who influences people's lives, who is influencing our culture. And of course, there's so many different things that we could pick. Every year, there's so many different people. And this year, it just seemed like all of us were drawn to this national discussion that we're having, this international discussion. 85 other countries used the #MeToo to chime in on this. It became an issue across in Japan. It was an issue in France. It was an issue all over the world. And as I said, across all industries. This was not just about Harvey Weinstein. This was not just about the U.S. Congress. This was about everyone and everything.
And it's certainly, you're right in saying international, something that we have discussed broadly here in Canada as well, and women have been coming forward as well as part of this. So yes, the speed of change facilitated, as you make the point, by social media and technology tools that are available to women now to come forward.
Absolutely. We were talking about how rapidly this leaped into the international attention. I think, the tweet or the phrase "Me Too" had been used more than a decade ago by the activist Tarana Burke. It was seized on by Alyssa Milano, who tweeted it out. The next day, she said she had, I think, 30,000 responses, and by the end of the day, it was all over the news. And you saw women just coming out of the woodwork absolutely everywhere. It created this sense of solidarity. It created this extraordinary sense of whatever it is that you've experienced in your workplace, you're not alone.
And whatever it is that we're calling it, everything from reckoning to movement to revolution, it's showing no sign of abating. There's barely a day that we're not talking about another jaw-dropping disclosure of some other name, of generally some other man who has been felled by his past. Where does the Time staff think this movement is going?
That is a great discussion, great question, and one that we have had here. One of the things that makes this movement so unique is that there are repercussions. There are consequences. We are actually seeing people being fired from their own companies. We are seeing CEOs being forced to resign. We are seeing people quitting. We are seeing, members of Congress deciding not to rerun, deciding to resign. In one case, we are actually seeing repercussions for these sorts of actions, probably for the first time in our history. So because of that, it seems to have teeth in a way that these past moments, 1991, we had a national discussion in the United States about sexual harassment around Anita Hill and her allegations against Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. But that didn't lead to the kind of fallout that we're seeing now. So we are seeing this reckoning. We spoke to CEOs, we spoke to economic analysts, and what we're seeing now is that corporations, these power brokers, are actually saying, this is bad for our bottom line. If we perpetuate this kind of culture, women won't want to work here. People won't want to shop here. We will get the kind of bad press that destroys an organization. I think it's not only that Uber, say, is reimagining itself. It's that there's an entire cultural shift across Silicon Valley, across Hollywood, across media. You're beginning to see people in politics do a little introspection as well.
So, hence, polls showing us that respondents believe, more than half believe, that this will lead to meaningful change in society. Maybe that will be another part of the story for 2018. Thank you so much. Haley, a very great pleasure to have you on as we talk about one of our top stories this morning. Thanks as always there in Manhattan.
Thanks so much for having me.